Wow, it looks like there's a new teen drama out. I just love that we have shows made by teens for teens now. Hold on, let's look at the cast for a second. Oh, good heavens. Hey guys, what's up? It's Imurgency and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back. Today we're going to talk about something that I have been noticing for a while and has been a point of conversation on the internet for some time now. And that is the fact that oftentimes now when it comes to shows that are set in high school and for the very select few that might be placed in college, oftentimes you'll go and enjoy that show and then you look up the IMDb or just like the cast overall on Google and figure out that all of these alleged teenagers are played by people in their late 20s to mid 30s. And we're going to talk about why that is, why we don't really see too much appropriate age casting, as well as getting into how the representation of adults playing teenage characters can have some negative or problematic effects on youth. But before we get into any of that, if you are new around here, I cover all things pop culture, commentary, TV, and fashion. So if any of that is of interest to you, make sure to hit that subscribe button to join the Roommates. Follow me on my socials here at Imurgency on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And don't forget to leave a like on this video because that helps out so much with the YouTube algorithm. But without further ado, let's actually get into this topic. So personally, I think when it comes to adults portraying teenagers in media, this ultimately is nothing new. This has sort of been the standard, at least for pretty much all of my lifetime. And at least as a member of Gen Z, I'd say that it's pretty much the typical experience that you kind of go in expecting to like teen dramas or any shows representing young people. Like I feel like you can continue to go farther and farther back in history and just seeing more and more adults playing younger people. But this topic is being brought up more and more now because for one, as a generation, we've become more vigilant and analytical of the media that we consume. And two, because in the last couple of years, we've seen a rise in conversations about body and beauty standards, especially unattainable body and beauty standards. And when it comes to that representation in media geared towards young people, having stories played by grown adults where the characters express obvious desired traits and reinforcing those beauty standards that kind of get problematic when the examples of those are from adults, like fully grown adults. When in reality for an average teenager, because they are not a grown adult, they just won't look like that. So it sort of creates that level of unattainability with a beauty standard that you just really can't get or is difficult to get as a developing person. But let's get into the first thing for a second. When it comes to just the general suspension of disbelief, I feel like personally it's getting harder and harder to just not look at some of these actors that are definitely not teenagers play these teenage roles. Like I think a recent example of this came from Never Have I Ever with one of Davy's love interests, Paxton Hall Yoshida. And Paxton as a character is like a 17, 18-year-old boy, right? But his actor, Darren Barnett, is a 31-year-old man. And this is no shade to Darren because he's a beautiful man, but he looks like a 31-year-old man. You feel me? So whenever there be scenes between Davy or Mayatri, who looks and is closer in age to a teenager, and Paxton / Darren, who looks very much like an adult, it was giving weird vibes. Like the chemistry was there, but the optics of it all just did not sit right. And based on conversations had on the internet as well as my own personal opinion, it was just really kind of jarring because you can only pretend to believe what's going on for so much, you know? And of course, this isn't like always the case. I feel like sometimes it's easier to suspend your disbelief when the show's costume design, makeup crew, and just like the actors overall can fit more into the teenage or at least younger person sphere. But I feel like for a lot of people in Gen Z, we've kind of just grown up with that being the norm of us seeing late 20-somethings or 30-somethings play these teenage roles to the point where we're kind of used to it. Like I was saying earlier, one of the issues that spurs from this is that it's easy and pretty common for people to make those comparisons between what an actor playing a teen is supposed to look like and what an actual teen is supposed to look like. I feel like one of the main issues with this whole conversation is that shows that have grown adults playing teens really do enforce a beauty standard that just is not realistic for your average teen. Like I can think of so many times when I was in high school and I would just be talking about my friends and we're talking about some of our favorite characters that we like to watch on our favorite shows. And the conversation would always come up like, ugh, why don't boys or girls look like that at our school? Like, girl, it's because they're 30. It's because they're grown adults. And like, yes, that's a haha joke. Also, it can be kind of serious because when you are around that age, you're really impressionable. You're still really finding yourself and trying to define who you are as a person and establishing your self-esteem, self-image, and stuff like that. So seeing both representation of what's supposed to be you in media and as well with what is desirable with your peers can be detrimental to your own sense of self, body image, because you look at these fully grown adults playing teenagers and you're comparing yourself and being compared to them, which just isn't fair unfair because at that stage in life, most likely, most high schoolers' bodies are still changing because they're still going through puberty. When these fully grown adult actors are quite literally in their prime. So it's really not hard to see how that could lead to having like a negative outlook on yourself and starting to build some of those self-image or body image issues. Like I feel like one of the main case examples of shows like that is Riverdale. Like these actors do not look like high schoolers, but everyone in the show is beautiful. Everyone has abs for some reason. The girlies are snatched, but they all look like they could be in college or older. I feel like shows that do a good job though of either casting actors that look like they're in high school or actually are around that age are shows like Ginny and Georgia, Heartbreak High even, and especially Heartstopper. Also, now that I think about it, Generation could fit under this, Grand Army, and Sex Education. Because I feel like in all these shows, the actors actually look like they could be teenagers, and I feel like they have more diversity of body types, as well as just having actors that are closer in age to actual high schoolers. But let's shift topics really quickly and talk about why things are the way they are. When it comes to casting adults versus teenagers, there are different trade-offs that you have. Like, of course, casting a teenager will be more authentic, but when you cast an adult character to play a teenager, there are some advantages in the industry. Like for one, adults can just work longer hours because they don't have to worry about child labor laws. Two, they can make their shows or movies raunchier with actual sex scenes, which execs know tend to draw people in, and usually already have the reputation and built-in fan base to actually bring people to watch the show or movies. And of course, this isn't always the case because oftentimes with young talent, they might not have as much experience or name recognition as adults that have had more time in the industry. And this is not to say that grown adults can't or shouldn't play these roles, but I think casting directors could take more into account in terms of just like general appearance. Like if an actor generally looks like they can fit into that age group, then that's fine. But if you have someone that clearly looks like they could have a 401k, then maybe find someone else to do it. Like I feel like a great example of this is Jasmine from On My Block. Like I had no idea that she was in her 30s when she was playing Jasmine. Like she generally looked like she was in her late teens or maybe mid 20s in my opinion. She definitely did not look older than Spooky. But transitioning on, there's also a conversation going on around whether or not there should be like a set age casting or at least guidelines for like how old someone should be to play a role. Meaning like if you're above the age of like 30 something, then you really cannot or should not go for this role or you won't be cast for this role. And I feel like when it comes to this conversation, there is a lot of nuance to it because on one hand, I understand the pros of that, of giving more opportunity and visibility to younger talent who may just be getting started in the industry, who may have not otherwise had the opportunity to land these big roles for their age group. Like I think like the Heartstopper cast is an example. Like pretty much all the actors are pretty close to the age of the characters they're portraying. And many of them became breakout stars from their roles on the show, even after just one season. Like Kit Connor, Joe Locke, Sebastian Croft, Yasmin Finney. And that's really great that they had the opportunity to do that. And they didn't just cast someone who's like 25 or 30 to play those roles. But like I said, it's not just as black and white as this because with having those like age restricted castings, it would open up a whole other can of worms. Let's talk about why. So the entertainment industry, as we know, is a very looks-based industry, right? Meaning that along with someone's talent, their looks in appearance as well as their age plays a heavy role in their social capital and career capital, I guess. So if casting directors or just the industry overall were to hardly push for these age requirements or at least age cutoffs, it'll likely disproportionately affect different communities and different groups. And the first group that comes to mind are women and femme presenting people. There are plenty of actresses that have come forward to speak about the misogyny and the ageism of casting in Hollywood especially, where if you're over a certain age or look like you're over a certain age, then you kind of get blacklisted and blackballed out of certain roles. And your options for the roles that you can go for limits down a lot. Already in the entertainment industry, if you're over a certain age, if you've aged out of your 40s as a woman in the industry, your options for roles and likelihood of being cast in a role that isn't like some kind of mentor or grandma gets really slim. Because Hollywood's more likely to cast an older man for roles rather than an older woman. But I'd imagine if they made these age requirements more strict for the younger pool, that would cause effects for actors that are in their prime to sort of age up. Like that would move that age ceiling down, if that makes sense. Meaning people would age out of their career and out of opportunities sooner. Like there's a reason why old Hollywood actresses would be really elusive about their age. Like even now, think about Alexa Demie. She's always been really vague about her age until the internet literally stalked her to find out her age. And the internet was shocked because she doesn't look like she's as old as she is. And now that most people know, there are memes going around about how she's been in pretty much every era because some older pictures of her in the 2010s leaked with her looking about the same around celebrities that look significantly younger than they do now. And of course those are just memes and just jokes, but they also have some element of truth in them. And the fact that people are generally shocked about Alexa's age. And this is really unfair that this is a reality currently for a lot of women in the industry, but also thinking about how those hypothetical restrictions would further impact them just doesn't sit right and makes this a much more nuanced conversation. And personally, I don't really have an answer for how you can necessarily fix all of this, or if there even needs to be a large-scale change at all. I just feel like casting directors in Hollywood overall can do a better job at giving young people the representation that they deserve, because as I say in literally every video now, representation is important and it has actual impacts, especially on younger people, and it's so validating to see a variety of different body types and a variety of different characters that look like you or look like actual people around your age group, so teenagers aren't comparing themselves to literal grown adults. But that's all I have to say on that. Now I want to hear from you. What do you personally think about adults playing teenagers on teen shows? Do you think it's an issue? Do you notice it? Or are you just like, Rumi, it's fine as it is, nothing needs to change? I want to hear all your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, if you're new around here and like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and leave a like on this video because it helps out so much. And before you head out, check out some of my other social medias here at Imurgency on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. But other than that, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Again, I've been Imurgency, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.